Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the next video lesson. Well, this is Waqar Ahmed, and in today's video I'm gonna discuss sentence kinds based on structure. Right, we have sentence kinds based on its function or mood, so I'm not gonna look at that in today's video. Well, first question comes that why should we actually learn these sentence kinds? Well, one reason of learning these sentence kinds is that maybe you lose points in your writing tasks because of not knowing the variety of sentences, and maybe you don't know how to add the variety in your paragraphs, and consequently your paragraphs might sound so flat. Like, for example, I'm going to speak to you. This is only demonstration, right? What it looked if I spoke only simple sentences, right? Or if I wrote only simple sentences in my writing. Just consider what I'm speaking is a paragraph. I'm a doctor. I do heart surgery. I charge people very high fees. I'm getting richer. So all four sentences I have spoken are simple, right? And now what I can do is I can join all sentences together using conjunctions. For example, I'm a doctor and I do heart surgery and I charge people very high fees. Therefore, or consequently, or because of this, I'm getting richer, right? Many ways to join sentences. So this was the reason I've told you must know these kinds of sentences so that you could make your writing more effective and you can make your writing sound actually more sophisticated, or sometimes academic as well, not all the times. Now first, so we have four. If you can look at this chart, this map, so here is the outline of today's lecture. You can better understand if you just grasp these four boxes, right? The first I have given title sentence kinds. I'm sorry, it's coming out. So now here we have four kinds of sentences. First kind is simple, then compound sentence, then we have complex sentence, and then compound complex sentence. These are four sentence kinds that we are gonna cover in today's video lesson. So let's start with the first one, simple sentence. Well, simple sentence has a subject and a predicate, right? It is one clause sentence. It has only a clause, a subject and a predicate. Subject and information about the subject in a sentence. For example, and one more thing, since it is a one clause sentence, clause must be independent of any other clauses, right? It must stand on its own, in its own rights. For example, I'm teaching sentence kinds. This is a complete sentence, although this is only a clause, but a complete sentence as well, because it can stand on its own, right? It can stand in its own right. This is a complete sentence. I have put period, full stop. One more example of simple sentence, you are not learning it, right? Now what I can do is I can join them. I'm gonna demonstrate this, or I'm gonna tell you how we can in my compound sentence example. So here I have written two examples, both are simple, keep that in your mind. Moving toward the second sentence kind, that is compound sentence. Here follow the chart or map. Compound sentence. Now compound sentence has two independent clauses, or it may have more than two independent clauses, right? What are independent clauses, what are dependent clauses, or what are subordinate clauses or main clauses? So by the way, main clause and independent clause both mean the same, right? One structure, two name, or one kind, two names. And dependent clause and subordinate clause both are the same things. One nature of clause, two names. Now I'm teaching, and by the way, we have already done a video lesson on clauses, right? So if you haven't watched, just go and watch that video lesson first to grasp it better. I am teaching and you are learning. So here our first clause, I'm teaching, sentence kind, right? So this was first, I'm teaching. I haven't written here sentence kind, and I have put a comma, and you are learning. So here two clauses, both are independent clause of each other. Neither it depends on the second one, nor this depends on, nor does it depend on the first one, right? Both are of the same rank, of same grammatical importance or worth, right? You can separate them removing conjunction and eliminating comma by putting a period between them. So then these two clauses will stand on their own as simple sentence, right? But you can join as well, as I have done. By the way, here's a concept about the comma. You might eliminate the comma as well. Usually just not to let readers get confused, you can eliminate the comma as well. If your compound sentences are too long, then you are more likely to eliminate the put the comma there, right? I'm sorry, put the comma. And if these are so simple in terms of, not this one, simple means this sentence looks quite short, right? Then you're supposed to eliminate it. You can still put the comma, it's not wrong if you put the comma there, as I have done as well. Now you try very hard, but put the comma, but he beats you, but he defeats you, right? He prevails you in a study or at anything. Now the third kind of sentence that we have is complex sentence, right? Make sure you learn all these four kinds properly. You better grasp it so that you could better use it as well in your writing. And once you have learned, try to use in your writings, in your paragraphs, if you build of essays. Now complex sentence. So what we really do in complex sentence is one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses, right? Here we have, don't confuse complex and compound complex, which I'm going to discuss in a moment as well, or in a minute as well, inshallah. Here we have only one dependent clause and one or more dependent clauses. For example, when I saw him, this is our dependent or subordinate clause, which is dependent. He was fighting with him. When I saw him, when I saw third person, but he's another person, he was fighting with another person, right? So when I saw him, this is an adverbial clause. If you don't know, no problem, we are going to do a video lesson inshallah, hopefully, with no promise on that as well. He put a comma, must put a comma here when you use a dependent clause first, right? If it comes the next, then you have to actually remove the comma. For example, if I say he was fighting with him when I saw him, so here I have placed dependent clause the second, right? So it needs no comma. But since I have put here first dependent clause, then it must have a comma, right? He was fighting with him. Now this was first example of complex sentence. Another, if you are struggling, our first dependent clause or a subordinate clause, you will certainly qualify. You'll certainly qualify your exam, right? This is dependent clause, right? This is main clause. I'm sorry, not dependent, independent clause or main clause, right? Since it can stand, if you eliminate, if you write it separately, it can stand on its own, right? In its own rights. Then again, we have a dependent clause or subordinate clause. As struggle pays you off, right? So if you are struggling, this is a dependent, and as struggle, because struggle pays you off, this is also a dependent or subordinate clause, which has been preceded by you will certainly qualify. Only this is an independent or main clause here, right? So look back here, one dependent which has been approved here, one or more dependent clauses. So here we have one dependent clause and here we have two dependent clauses. Now the last kind of sentence is compound complex sentence. Here we have at least two independent clauses with one or more dependent clauses, right? So here is one example. I'll stay with you if you don't mind. So here now, I'll stay with you, this is an independent clause, right? If you don't mind, this is a dependent or subordinate clause, right? And there is no pressure on you. There is no pressure as well, right? If you wish, you can. If you don't wish, you shouldn't. So here we have again an independent clause or main clause. So here two independent clause, these are two independent clause, right? And this has been followed by a dependent or subordinate clause, which is if you don't mind. One more verbal example if I should give you would be, uh, if you want to learn English, you can, and if you don't want to learn English, you won't, right? So here I have used two if clauses, both are dependent clauses, and I have used two independent clauses as well. Second one was followed by coordinating conjunction. And one thing that I forgot to mention is compound sentences are joined by coordinating conjunctions. Typically, or namely, specifically, they are or, but, and, sometimes yet, right? And you might also hear whereas, I guess, sometimes, but mainly we have theory or, and, but, right? Sometimes so you might hear, sometimes you might hear here, yet, right? So let's end our today's video lesson until here, and inshallah gonna see you in the next video lesson. Till then, take care and try to use them as much as you can in your paragraphs, in your writings. The more you use, the better you become.